Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hadra, and today I would like to present my research proposal. The title is Improving Vocabulary Mastery of the 8th grade students at SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara through reading. And next is the background of my research proposal topic. As you know, English has 4 skills. They are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And vocabulary become the one of the important aspect for students who learn foreign language such English. And vocabulary mastery is important in comprehending reading, because it helps a reader to understand the reading text well. And also, it's impossible for the reader to comprehend and obtain the information from the text if she or he lacks of vocabulary. Many students have difficult to comprehend the content of the reading text because they have an inadequate technical terms in vocabulary. And in short, vocabulary must mastered by the students in order to comprehend the reading easily. Concerning with the statement above, the writer would like to improve vocabulary mastery through reading. Based on the interview, students and teacher in SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara, I found most of the students have difficulties in studying English, and the students had short terms memory in memorizing vocabulary without getting more explanation from the teacher. And it's hard for the students and to understand the text, and the students are difficult to remember and mastering the vocabulary. Therefore, the writer wants to apply reading as a technique to improve the vocabulary mastery of the 8th grade students of SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara, because the writer thought that students are more interested in reading and they can find new words in the text to identify the verb, noun, and also adjective in order to arrange them to a correct sentences. Based on the explanation above, the 8th grade students of SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara are still lack of vocabulary. The reason of choosing this topic is because the writer was informed by the English teacher that the students have difficulty in mastering vocabulary, so that as the object of the writer's research. Based on the analysis of the background of research proposal from the researcher, it can be concluded there are 3 problems statement. The first is students are having low mastery in vocabulary, and the second is students get some problems in comprehend and understanding the text, and the last is students are had short time memory in memorizing vocabulary. The objective of research are to find out whether the use of reading passage is effective to improve the students' vocabulary mastery of the E-grade student SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara or not, and is there any improvement of students' vocabulary achievements after being taught through reading at the A-grade students of SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara or not. Next slide is scope of the research. The research is focused on the improvement of vocabulary in terms of nouns, verbs, and adjectives through reading. And the significance of the research is the writer hopes that this research could contribute and useful to the teaching and learning English for the students, teacher, and writer, and also the reader. And here are some of significant of the research as follows. For the students, the result of research might be motivated them to study English by using interesting reading to learn more about vocabulary. And for the teachers, it might give clear ideas for the English teacher that use of reading is helpful to improve the students' vocabulary mastery and the use of new vocabulary items in real context. For the writer, it might be a best experience in order to create and encourage the students in learning English. And last, for the reader, it might be useful information for them in enrich their vocabulary knowledge. And then the definitions of key terms. There are several key terms as follows. Improving is supposed to be a strong basis for developing or increasing the capability. And reading is activity, understanding meaning of words, and also the contents of written text. And vocabulary mastery refers to how many of words someone knows. And learning is a process of gaining knowledge. And now we move to next captures. This is the second capture. And this capture, there will be presenting three items. The first is theoretical perspectives. The second is previous study, and the third is related references of research variables. For the theoretical perspectives itself, there are something to be noticed about teaching vocabulary at the junior high school students. That are what words must be learned by the students. The first is noun, the second is verbs, and the last is adjectives. Noun is a word used as the name of person, place, or a thing. Noun refers to thing, concentrate, and abstract. It is commonly used as subject of this species. As additional option of noun, the writer will present the definition of noun proposed by Frank as follows. The noun is one of the most important parts of speech. Its arrangement with the verb helps to form the sentence's core, which is essential to every complete sentence. In addition, it may function as the chief or head word in many structure of modifications. Abstract noun is concentrate one. In other words, the abstract noun cannot be experienced or touched by our five senses. The next is verbs. There are great numbers of verbs in English based on their forms, and they can be divided into regular and irregular verb. According to Frank states, the verb has the grammatical properties of person, number, and gender, which require agreement with subject. But the verb also has several other grammatical properties that are shared with that the students need to know. Verb form, regular and irregular, and agreement of first provided. The last is adjective, is a word that used to modify a noun or pronoun. Adjectives commonly occur before the noun. They refer to or after linking verbs in relation to adjectives. Frank 1972 defines as follows. The adjective is a modifier that has the grammatical property of comparison, and it is often identified by special derivational ending or by special adverbial modifiers that precede it. Its most usual position is before the noun it modifies, but it fills other positions as well. And dealing with the above statement, the writer may say that adjectives are most frequently used to modify noun or pronoun. Reading passage. Reading is one of the most important basic skills in learning English, beside listening, speaking, and writing. Reading activity is one of the ways to catch information, knowing enough science concepts, knowing more knowledge, understanding scientific books and technology written in English language. Reading is one of the basic ways to having information in our society and academic setting in particular. In simple way, we can say that the reading is communicative interaction through language between an author and a reader, which requires some aspect from the reader. Reading aloud. Reading aloud is the process of a teacher reading a book of other texts aloud in front of students, ranging from individual to whole class group. In reading aloud, the students are asked to practice the sound took, whether in word, phrase, or sentences from. Kind of reading technique. To understand the text, the students shall be provided with the skill of reading. By having the skills, they are expected to understand and answer the question as quickly as possible. There are two kinds of reading techniques. They are scanning and skimming. Scanning is technique of reading by location. specific information as rapidly as possible. The first is used by students when they search for particular information or answer the questions, and the second scanning is used to find out the detailed information from the passage. Therefore, scanning is a technique that helps students to find out quickly specific information of the text. And skimming. Instead of scanning, there is another technique of reading, namely skimming. It is defined as the process of reading only main ideas in the passage. However, it's used to get the general ideas of the information and become familiar with the passage. Teaching vocabulary through reading. In teaching vocabulary to the students, we need to make sure that we use the suitable method of teaching. First, the writer will distribute the reading descriptive text related to their handbook, and the students read it by concentrations. After reading the scripted text, the writer will ask them to find out the difficult word as well as guessing the meaning or find it in their dictionary. And then the students will translate the descriptive text and identify the noun, verb, and adjective. And after that, ask the students to pronounce the word that they find in a passage. And then the previous study. Related to the present study, the writer needs to review previous studies of similar topics in order to find out the similarities and differences between the previous study and this study. Previous study by Wahyuni 2012 showed that the English teacher of MTS Negeri Bandung made some preparation dealing with the teaching of vocabulary toward their students. Those include preparation and use media, the selection of method and strategy of teaching. The text preparation is in selecting appropriate method of teaching, especially vocabulary, in which the teacher used silent way and used presentation strategy. The presentation is in the form of showing pictures, then follow it with questioning and answering section and doing some tasks. In the application of this strategy, teacher did not English fully, but it is combination of English and Indonesia. The teacher used discrete and integrated test vocabulary to examine the students' mastery in vocabulary. The differences between Wahyuni's study and this study can be seen from what aspect that the researcher studies. In her study, she studied about teacher preparation before teaching, teacher technique in teaching, and teachers evaluating and students' vocabulary mastery. And in this study, only focused on the students' strategy in teaching vocabulary throughout reading. The second previous study is conducted by Rahayu. In her study, the researcher found that the students who are good in vocabulary mastery at SMP MTS Negeri Aryo Jeding use various strategies in learning vocabulary. They choose their own learning strategies based on their characteristic, creativities, and interest. The second study with these studies, the second previous studies focuses on the students' vocabulary learning strategies, and this study also focuses on the students into improve vocabulary mastery through reading. Related references of research variables. Concept of vocabulary. Vocabulary is the basis of language. It is very important to master in our language. According to Susanti 2002, vocabulary is the total number of words in a language. It is also a collection of words a person knows and uses in speaking and writing. Referring to the statement above, is it clear that vocabulary has important role in communication in order to master the English language? Besides, vocabulary will influence the ability of our knowledge in English lesson, so that the students are expected to be able to practice the vocabulary in their activities and communicate with other people. The main problem that makes the students unable to express their idea is they do not know what words will be used to describe their ideas because there are still lack of vocabulary. Improving vocabulary. One of the main problems in learning foreign language is vocabulary mastery. Most of the second year students of SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara find difficulties in mastering foreign language because they don't know more about the vocabulary. The lack of vocabulary mastery of students affects all languages, all language skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Therefore, improving vocabulary is supposed to be a strong basis for developing to the students' ability in using English. The ability in reading space is determined by the vocabulary mastery. One way that can help the students in learning vocabulary is through reading. In other words, the students' vocabulary mastery can be improved through reading. For example, the students to help getting the meanings of the new vocabulary in reading text. After that, the teacher will guide them to use it in context or correlate it in their daily activities. By applying this way, the students can memorize the vocabulary in long-term memorize. And based on the statement above, reading is one of the best ways to improve the vocabulary mastery. In other words, the students will get the contextual meaning. And now we move to chapter 3, research method. In research method, I will present six items following in research method. The first is research design, population and sample, research variable, research instrument, technique of data analysis, technique of data collections. For research design, this research used through experimental research designed to improve vocabulary mastery through reading. The experimental research design is used to investigate possible relationship of cause effect by giving one or more experimental group, while the control one will not be given. Population and sample. Population was a group of individuals who have the same characteristic. The research must have certain population with whom the writer got the information that could analyzed by the writer through experimental method. Population of this research is the 8th grade students of SMP Negeri 1 Banggai Utara. It consisted of two parallel classes. They were A and AB. Sorry, second A and second B. Each class consists of 25 students. The total of the students are 50. The sample of this research was taken by using cluster sampling technique. The reason is that the student's English ability is homogeneous. This determines which class has become the experimental group and the control group. The writer prepared 5 small pieces of paper and wrote down the names of the classes, and then she rolled the paper well. The first roll paper fallen was the experimental, and the second was the control group. The total number of the sample was 50 students. Research variable. This research is through experimental research. There are two variables, dependent variables and independent variable. The dependent variable is the student's vocabulary mastery, while the independent variable is reading method. Research instrument. The writer is used two kinds of research instrument in her study, namely test and observation. The test the tests are pre-test and post-test. The test used in order to know ability of the students, vocabulary and result could be better, which means the result could be valid, complete and systematic so that the result could be identified easily. Technique of data collection. A test. There are two tests administrate to the students. They are pre-test and post-test. The tests arranged the writer by the writer and it based on the material given in the school. In this case, the writer provided 30 questions consist of three kinds of tests, 10 complementation tests and each correct item scored 1, 10 matching tests and each correct item scored 1. The total score of the test was 30. The scoring system of the test consists of multiple choice 10 items, complementation 10 items and matching test 10 items. For pretest, the pretest is given to the students before the treatment is conducted. The writer gives the vocabulary test to the students, and the students are expected to be able to read the text correctly and loudly by using the reading descriptive text. Treatment. After giving pretest, the writer could conduct her treatment, and the writer gave the treatment to the students for 10 times meeting, twice a week, and 90 minutes each meeting. The writer provided the lesson. It was related to the students' materials or book that taught them. Post-test. The post-test was given as the post-test is given to the students after their treatment. The purpose of this test is administered to measure and to know the student's vocabulary mastery, so the writer know whether the treatment could be successful or not. Post-test is given at the end of the treatment. Post-test that writer conducted is the same as the pre-test. Technique of data analysis. To analyze the data, the writer applied the simple statistic analysis. First, the writer computed the individual score by using the formula proposed by Sutomo 1985 as follows: standard score, obtained score, and maximum scores. After getting the mean of each group, the writer computed the mean score of the deviation. The writer used the formula proposed by Arikunto 2006. That's all about presentation of my research proposal. Thank you so much for your attention, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. That's all about presentation of my research proposal. Thank you so much for your attention, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.